Let's talk about the heart. So, the first thing that we have to remember is that the heart is really just a giant muscle inside of the body. It's made up of muscular tissue, right? It's made up of cardiac muscle tissue. So, cardiac muscle tissue. Right? We have to remember that cardiac muscle tissue is made up of branching cells. We have to remember that it is striated. We have to remember that it is mostly uninucleated. We say mostly because in some regions, especially in the left ventricle, there's been instances of binucleated cells, but mostly uninucleated. Okay? They have intercalated discs, which are those modified junctions anchoring them together, right? And it is involuntary. Okay? So it's just made up of muscle. Heart is a giant muscle. Now, I am pretty fancy at drawing hearts here, so this is going to be my heart. Okay? And the heart sits within a specialized region of the thoracic cavity known as the mediastinum. And we have to remember that it is an organ inside of the body, and it is surrounded by a membrane, a double-layered membrane like this. So, sort of draw it like this. Like so. A double-layered serous membrane. That serous membrane is known as the pericardium. And there is what we call a visceral layer. So we'll see in this color, this is the visceral layer here. So this is known as the visceral pericardium. Okay. And then there is a parietal layer, the outside layer, right? So this is your parietal pericardium. Okay. Remember, that's a serous membrane, double-layered membrane, so it is filled with fluid. Like so. And that fluid is known as serous fluid, or what we call pericardial fluid. Okay. So you have pericardial fluid. Now, inside of the mediastinum, there's also some fibrous connective tissue. This is dense, irregular connective tissue that surrounds the heart like this. Okay? This is known as the fibrous pericardium. Okay? It sort of makes up the walls of that mediastinum. Okay? So you have your fibrous pericardium there in purple superficially, and then you've got the parietal pericardium, the serous pericardial fluid, the visceral pericardium, and then you have the heart tissue. So if we sort of take a cross section through that, what we'll see is that we'll sort of slide this down, right? Is we'll say that this is superficial over here. Okay? And we'll start with our fibrous pericardium, right? So this is our fibrous pericardium. Okay, so that's this layer out here. Okay, so then deep to that, right, we are going to have the first layer of that serous membrane, right? So that is going to be the superficial layer. That's going to be the parietal pericardium. Okay, then we have our fluid. What's our fluid called? That's the pericardial fluid. Okay, then we have the other layer of the pericardium. Okay, so this is our visceral pericardium. Okay, and then we have the cardiac muscle tissue. So that is a thick wall. Right, that's the cardiac muscle tissue. And this is known as the myocardium. So we'll write this like this. That's the myocardium. Okay, and then on the very deepest side, right, lining the actual open chamber, is going to be a very thin layer of an epithelium. Okay, because it's going to surround the hole or the cavity. Right, so there's going to be an epithelium there, and this epithelium is known as an endothelium because it is an epithelium associated with the cardiovascular system. We call that an endothelial. And then this is going to be the open chamber of the heart, whether that be the atria or the ventricles. Okay, so this over here is the deep side. Oops. Okay, so you have deep and you have superficial. So you should know, right, going from superficial to deep or deep to superficial, what the layers of that heart are.